As we gather on this joyful day, I invite us to take a moment to be fully present. To breathe, to look around, and to recognize the significance of this moment for Pomona College and for each graduate here. We stand on a campus that has shaped generations of citizens. These walkways, these classrooms, these trees of Marston Quad, and the steady presence of St. Gabriel's Mountains have witnessed late-night conversations, new ideas taking flight, and friendship that will last a lifetime. This is a place where curiosity is nurtured, where integrity is expected, and where community is living every day. Today, we honor the achievements of this graduating class and the many people who have helped them reach this milestone. The faculty who challenged and inspired them, the staff who supported them in countless ways, the families and friends who encouraged them, and the mentors across the Clement colleges who opened doors and broadened horizons. We also honor diversity of traditions, beliefs, and identities represented here. In that diversity, Pomona finds its strength, and in our shared humanity, we find our common ground. As this graduate steps forward into the world as Pomona alumni, may they carry with them the values cultivated here. A commitment to truth, a spirit of collaboration, a heart for justice and compassion, and the courage to lead with imagination and humility. And now, a brief blessings for the journey ahead, offered in the spirit of goodwill and shared hope. And so, may clarity guide your choices. May kindness shape your relationships. May curiosity keep you learning. May courage steady you in uncertainty. May community surround you wherever you go. And may you always know that you remain a citizen, supported, celebrated, and never alone. And with gratitude for the path behind and hope for the road ahead, we begin this celebration. Please be seated.
Thank you, Father Vitus. All right. Good morning, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to the 133rd Commencement Exercises of Pomona College. For our graduates, the last years have been an incredible journey. With guidance from our remarkable faculty, you have pursued in-depth academic work inside the classroom and out in the field. You've explored the world beyond campus through internships, fellowships, and study away. You've engaged with your communities to become better scholars and leaders and citizens and friends, and you have already made history. You had the chance to participate in opportunities here on campus that no previous class has ever had before, including just a few weeks ago, the gubernatorial debate that will shape the future of this state. Parents, families, and friends, You have supported your students through their journeys, and now we have come not to the end, but a new beginning. You, along with your graduates, will remain a part of Sagen history, and the pride that we have in what your students have achieved is extraordinary. Thank you for being here today to join this magnificent celebration. Every year, as part of our commencement tradition, we bestow the Rena Gurley Archibald High Scholarship Prize to the member or members of the graduating class who have demonstrated the highest levels of academic achievement. This year, the award goes to 4 of our graduates, and I would ask that they stand and be recognized as I call their names. Honorary Emily Kramer. Thomas Lee Shaw. Josephine Hay Yip. And Grace Zhang. Grace. Congratulations. The close collaboration and mentorship between our faculty and students is at the heart of our liberal arts education. Our professors are not only dedicated to their own research and exploration, but also to advancing their students' love of joy and discovery. And since 1955, the Wig Distinguished Professor Award has been bestowed by the college in recognition of exceptional teaching, concern for students, and service to the college and community. Recipients are chosen by a committee of trustees and faculty based on ballots cast by Pomona juniors and seniors. And this year we recognize 7 professors as 2026 WIG Award winners. And I ask that they also stand as I call their names. Professor of Romance Languages and Literatures, David DeVita. Associate Professor of Politics, Erica Dobbs. George E. and Nancy O. Moss, Professor of Economics, Michael Coolwine. Associate Professor of Computer Science, Alexandra Paputsaki. Assistant Professor of Politics, Sarah Sadwani. Harry S. and L. Madge Rice Thatcher Professor of Psychological Science and Professor of Neuroscience, Nicole Weeks. And Associate Professor of Asian Languages and Literatures, Feng Xiao. Along with our graduates, their families and friends, and the faculty and staff of the college, we have with us this morning 8 members of the Board of Trustees, led by Janet Benton, class of 1979. Thank you for all that you do to ensure that Pomona College continues to build on a 139-year legacy as one of this country's finest centers of learning. Now, Pomona College class of 2026. A few years ago, you walked through our gates as transfers or first-year students, and yesterday, you walked through the gates again. Ready now to go out in the world to bear your added riches for all humankind. Oh yes, I know you will accomplish great and beautiful things. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's get this celebration started.
Good morning. Hailing from Atlanta, Georgia, Marilyne Makendi. a Questbridge Scholar, and Goldman Sachs Emerging Leader, is an economics major with a concentration in sociology. Her summer internships have been with Deloitte, Apple, and Google. Following graduation, Marilyne will be heading to Chicago, where she will be a manager in the Management and Strategy Department of McMaster and Carr, an industrial supplier. While here at Pomona, Marilyne was a board member for the Pomona cohort of economists. She was a residential advisor in Whig and Lyon, and this academic year served with amazing grace as the senior class president for the class of 2026. Please join me in welcoming Marilyne to the podium.
Oh my gosh, guys, let's take a breath together because I'm also really nervous. Okay, hello everyone. Faculty, staff, families, our board members, and most importantly, class of 2026. I am so amazed that I am even standing here before you all today, that we have made it this far, and that this marks the end of our journey as undergrads at Pomona College. It doesn't quite feel real. Before I really begin, I must take a moment to honor my parents and my family who are in the crowd. My mom, you are the brightest star in the sky. And my dad, you have been the person who has pushed me and encouraged me to pursue my dreams. And my sister, you will remain, as always, the greatest love of my life. During the course of my speech, I will be revealing 2 secrets. I promise, it sounds more ominous than it is. 4 years ago, I stood up on a stage much smaller than this one and gave remarks to my high school graduating class. A lot of you will roll your eyes at this because, of course, you did. But my first secret is I was not sad at all during my high school graduation. Despite me being in a small magnet program for 4 years, despite my million extracurriculars, that has not changed, despite me shedding even a single strategic tear during my speech, I was ecstatic to be leaving that place. And if you heard my remarks during the BSU Town Hall earlier this year, you may have a clue as to the type of environment I was escaping. To me, and like most of you, Pomona represented change. And one that wasn't just limited to location, it was deeply personal. I wanted to become an entirely different being. All I could think about from the moment I got my acceptance was what new entity I was going to carefully carve myself into before coming here. I shed my glasses, yes, I wore glasses, redid my wardrobe, learned how to do my makeup, and tried to emulate the confidence that had almost entirely eroded away in high school. This transformation is also why no photo existed of me before 2022. I was completely obsessed with what I could be here if only I worked at it. When I relayed this to my sister, she very astutely advised me with this message: no matter where you go in this world, Marilyne, you take yourself with you. Just because you have changed places does not mean you have changed the core of what makes you who you are. Beautiful words. I very promptly ignored this advice and proceeded on with my mission. When I arrived at Pomona, I started off great. No one knew who I was and the things I did not like about myself. I certainly looked much better than I ever had. I was more conscious in every social interaction, focusing on how the new Marilyne would behave, what she would say, how she would move. But eventually, as with everything, cracks started to show. College, as all of you know, is not easy for a myriad of reasons. I struggled deeply with some of my classes, making friends and navigating what my future would look like. It was so much harder to keep up with my facade when I was being tested in those ways. In fact, it is in those hard moments where more of the real me showed, where all of those insecurities and quirks came to the surface. And that nearly dragged me down into deep despair because I did not like those aspects of myself very much. I hated them, actually. And I came to almost resent this place for bringing those things back up when I was trying so hard to run away from that Marilyne. But then I thought back to my sister's advice, and strangely, I also thought back to my grandmother. Now I'm gonna pivot a little bit, and though it may not make sense right now, I promise it all ties back together in the end. My second secret that I'm going to share with you all is my first name is not Marilyne. Not technically, at least. Gasp, I know. Marilyne is not my first name, but it is the name everyone calls me and will continue to call me. My first name, or at least the name that is put first in the order of my many names, is really Alice, or Alice Puma. I was named after my grandmother, my father's mother. You see, in my culture, we have a thing called bombos. Essentially, it is like a godparent, and when you have a child, you give that child the godparent's first name in order to honor them. Who a parent chooses to name their child after signifies the traits they want them to possess. And what an honorable name Alice is. My grandmother raised almost a dozen kids in deep poverty, scrounging up enough money for them to go to school, to eat, and to live. She was resilient and brave and strong, and I am proud to bear her name every day. And that is the importance of a name. It carries with it a mouthful of history, expectations, failures, and triumphs. Everywhere you've gone, you have left a version of yourself not so far behind, and you have picked up a name. And those names are proof that you are here, and that you have lived and carried on. Here, we were called undergrads, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, graduates, and sage hens, chirp chirp. And that is what I did not understand as I desperately attempted to run away from myself when I got here. You, all of you, everything that makes you you, are inescapable. In the words of Thanos, you are inevitable. You cannot ever run away from yourself, from the only person who will ever know everything about you, from the weight of your many names. When all is said and done, class of 2026, when you have left all but a shadow in this place, and when you have moved on to what is waiting for you next, what name will we call you? Will it be doctor, lawyer, engineer, as I call it the Great Immigrant 3? Will you be crawling your way to the top of a corporate ladder in a space that has not seen many people like you? Will you be demanding better wages for struggling workers as a union organizer? Will you push every subsequent institution you are a part of to do better for the world? Will you demand justice in the face of injustice? Will you be bold and brash and take all that is with you, all you are with you as you fight to make your dreams come true? Will we call you an activist, a comedian, a nurse, a dentist, an underpaid research assistant, another student? Will we call you a brother, a sister, a friend? If in years from now, someone thinks to make you a bombo, what do you want them to think about you? What of yourself do you want to pass on? What weight will your name bear on them? You have all left quite the impression on me, class of 2026. And I am so proud that for the last 4 years, I have been able to call you all my family. I am so excited to see what you do next and how you will leave your mark on this world. Thank you and congratulations.
And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Lexi Duffy, a public policy analysis major with a concentration in politics. She is a newly inducted member of Phi Beta Kappa, a U.S. State Department Gilman Scholar who studied abroad at the University College Dublin in Ireland. She participated on Pomona College's Judicial Board for 4 years, serving as a panelist and respondent advisor. Was president of the Claremont College's League of Women Voters, and captain and treasurer for Pomona's mock trial team, winning all regional mock trial attorney in 2024 and 2026. She has also spent this year being the Vice President for Academic Affairs for ASPC. After graduation, Lexi will join the California Capital Fellows Program as one of 10 judicial fellows selected nationwide, where she will serve in a California courthouse, gaining experience in judicial administration, court operations, and public policy. As part of this fellowship, she will also earn a graduate certificate in applied policy and government. Please welcome your elected student speaker, Lexi Duffy.
It's gonna be hard to follow up Marilyne. Can we hear it one more time for Marilyne? But with that, good morning and welcome to friends, family, staff, faculty, trustees, but most importantly, the 400 or so people that I feel like I've shared a lifetime with. In a few short moments, you'll walk across the stage toward whatever comes next, whether that's a cross-country flight or a long-winded dinner in the village one last time. But before you do, I hope you'll indulge me in aiming to squeeze the last 4 years of college into 3 short minutes. Because if you took a campus tour, or like me, came to Pomona with stars in your eyes through the Perspectives on Pomona, or POP, flyout program, you probably heard some version of the same line on your tour. Mine came from a tour guide who looked me dead in the eye and told me with complete and utter sincerity that my future peers would be collaborative, not competitive. I smiled, I nodded. I immediately went home and opened the Class of 2026 Instagram page, which for the record, you can still find if you need a humbling reminder of what we all looked like at age 17. But upon first glance, I wasn't sure I'd be convinced. But 4 years later, I owe my tour guide an apology. Because this class took the principle of collaborative over competitive and made it mean something, turned it into a practice. In my opinion, made it the hallmark of our class. Because it's the kind where you genuinely want the person beside you to figure it out, land the internship, pass the midterm, and you do something about it when they're not. When someone else's success feels like evidence that yours is possible too. I see it in the hallways, I see it in the dorms, I see it in the SEC living room far too late at night. But something like that is harder to build than it sounds, and this class went ahead and built it anyway. There's no shortage of examples. Many of you coordinated service programs at the Draper Center, advised first years through affinity groups, coached your peers through clubs and sports, created communities as RAs and sponsors, or served as TAs and mentors through difficult classes. A personal thank you to those who dragged me through econ who are in the crowd today. But the list goes on, and the culture seems to run past any formal role. Because I've seen it in each time that you all have rallied for me, and I've seen you rally for each other. So as you move into new places, I hope you'll take that collaborative spirit with you. That you'll serve the communities you land in the way that you've shown you know how to serve this one. With that same instinct turn toward people rather than past them. You have certainly built a reputation for it, and I hope you'll live up to it. But knowing how oriented you all are toward serving others, toward helping your peers, I'll say this. The class of 2026 and the people toward your left and your right are people you can lean on. People whom you've served but are more than willing to serve you too. So whether it's across a time zone or a zip code, the friend sitting next to you will be a text or a call or a class of 2026 Instagram DM away, long beyond these gates. And this class will keep showing up for each other long past today. So thank you and congratulations, class of 2026.
Well done, Lexi and Marilyne. I'm now pleased to introduce Donna M. DeGrazia, is the conductor of our Glee Club and the David J. Baldwin Professor of Music and choral conductor, and our extraordinary Pomona College Glee Club will perform their musical selections.
Богородице, Дево, радуйся, благодатная Мария, Господь с тобою, благодатная Мария, Господь с тобою, благословенна ты жена, и благословен прочева твоего, яко спаса родила еси душ наших, яко спаса родила еси душ наших. Богородице, Дево, радуйся, благодатная Мария, Господь с тобою, благословенна ты в женах и благословен прочева твоего, яко спаса родила еси душ наших.
Good morning. Today we honor a jurist whose career reflects the highest ideals of public service, intellectual rigor, and educational opportunity. Goodwin H. Liu has served on the Supreme Court of California since 2011. After his appointment by Governor Jerry Brown, since then he has helped shape the law of the nation's most populous state with thoughtfulness, fairness, and a deep commitment to justice. He was retained by California voters in both 2014 and 2022 with an affirmation not only of his legal brilliance, but of the public trust he has earned. Before joining the bench, Justice Liu built a remarkable academic career as a professor and associate dean at UC Berkeley School of Law, where he became a nationally recognized scholar in constitutional law, educational policy, and civil rights. And even after ascending to California's highest court, he has continued teaching the next generation of legal minds at Harvard, Columbia, and Stanford law schools. He must be exhausted. His own educational journey is extraordinary and reflects the values of the liberal arts that we hold dear. A biology degree from Stanford University, graduate study at the University of Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, and a law degree from Yale Law School. He went on to clerk for Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an experience, yes, that no doubt helped shape his lifelong belief that that the law should expand opportunity and protect human dignity. But perhaps what makes Justice Liu especially fitting for this moment is his enduring faith in education itself. As the son of Taiwanese immigrants who attended public schools in Sacramento, he embodies the promise that education can transform lives and that excellence and humility can coexist. At a time when principled leadership matters more than ever, Justice Liu reminds us that wisdom is not measured only by achievement, but how one uses that achievement in service of others. Madam President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Goodwin Liu for the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon Goodwin Liu the degree of Doctor of Laws in Pomona College, honoris causa.
President Starr, thank you, and Professor Ziblatt, thank you so much. That was such a wonderful introduction. Distinguished trustees and faculty, honored guests, families, and most especially the Pomona College class of 2026. I am so delighted to share this day with you, and wow, an honorary degree from Pomona, alongside Jane Olson and David Ziblatt. I can think of 47 reasons why this is the honor of a lifetime. And one of them is that I've always wanted to be a sage hen. So this is a dream come true. Am I supposed to chirp? Is that? Okay. You'll have to teach me that later. To the families who are here, welcome. You've given so much time, money, emotional bandwidth, and I suspect a lot of unreturned phone calls. Your graduate is now the proud owner of a liberal arts education, which means they can explain the French Revolution, deconstruct a poem, and tell you everything wrong with capitalism. But they still may need some help doing their taxes. That's what you're for. Graduates, you've been sitting a little bit. Let's take a moment. Please rise if you are able. Turn around. Rise. Turn around. Thank your people, your parents, your grandparents, whoever raised you, your siblings, your friends, your partners, every person who ever loved you and sacrificed so you could be sitting here today. Okay, well, I'm going to be honest about the world you're entering. It ain't pretty. When I told a friend about this graduation, she said, "What are you going to tell them? We have a climate crisis, we have wars with no end, democracy in decline, AI is eating their jobs. It's kind of messed up out there." Well, I didn't think it'd make a very good speech to say, "I'm honored to be here, things are very messed up, thank you very much, good luck." So let me say a few other things. America turns 250 this year, and yes, our democracy is under stress. But I understand you recently did your part by hosting a gubernatorial debate right here on campus. How many of you helped organize that event? Yeah? Some of you? How many of you attended the event? Some of you? Good. I think the best line of the night was from your classmate, Ryan Kosarian, a junior, who asked a question right after the candidates had talked all over each other and began by saying, "Wow, that was a bit of a mess." That was gutsy, actually. It captured the moment, but for me, it also captured a vital essence of democracy. It is messy. It is loud. It is cacophonous. As Churchill said, it's the worst form of government, except all the others. And no matter where you are, left, right, or center, I hope that hosting the debate, despite the mess, seeing democracy in action gave you a spirit of unity and made you feel part of something larger. So congratulations on that great public service to the state of California. What else can you do for our democracy? Well, first, vote. It's obvious. But as you may know, and as Professor Sadwani surely knows, young people 18 to 24 years old have the lowest voting rate in our electorate. Don't let that be you. I'm 55 and part of the highest voting rate in the electorate, and there's no reason that you should let people like me chart your future. Second, talk to people who disagree with you. Not to win, not to persuade, but to understand. Debate and disagreement are the lifeblood of democracy. It's how we seek truth, test ideas, find solutions. And let me be the first to say, it can be frustrating. I sit on a 7-member court, and it sure would be nice if my colleagues agreed with me more. But I'm sure they feel the same about me. It's hard. It's hard for judges, it's hard for ordinary citizens. But welcome to democracy. Pomona has given you the tools to engage with complexity and sit with discomfort. Use them. Seek out the people who challenge your assumptions and listen, really listen to what they have to say. Third, find your place in the public square. That doesn't mean you have to run for office or become a lawyer or a journalist, although I hope some of you will. It means finding the intersection of what you are good at and what the world needs. If you're going into medicine, ask who doesn't have access to the care you will provide. If you're going into technology, ask who's left behind by what you're building. If you're going into the arts, ask whose stories are not being told. Democracy is not just a system of government, it's a practice of asking who is left out and what can I do about it. And fourth, and most importantly, be a good citizen every day, not just for jury duty, not just on election day. America was born 250 years ago, but democracy was not won in a single year or by any single generation. It's a work of progress for every generation and always has been. You can stand up for democracy by staying informed, listening to others, organizing, participating, and speaking up. The skills of democracy are like any skills. Use it or lose it. So use them, you must. When I think about the challenges we face, I think about my immigrant parents who had so much faith in America that they left their families and their homeland with barely a suitcase to make their life here. They came 60 years ago believing America is committed to the rule of law and their children would have freedoms and opportunities they did not have. It turns out their faith was well placed because here it is possible in a single generation for a child of immigrants not only to enjoy those freedoms and opportunities, but also to hold an office that protects them for others. That's me. And you can do the same with the friends and foundation you gained here, and you must. Pomona College, class of 2026, you have everything it takes to succeed and lead in a messy, uncertain future. And the question is not whether you are ready for the world, but whether the world is ready for you. I can't wait to find out. Congratulations, Pomona College, class of 2026. Good luck.
Good morning, Sage Hens. Jane Olson has devoted her life to promoting international peace and justice through humanitarian work. She chaired the International Board of Trustees of Human Rights Watch, the largest US-based human rights organization, and served as co-chair of the Women's Refugee Commission in New York, which she continues to support as a commissioner. She was the founding chair of the Landmine Survivors Network and Survivor Corps. LSN and HRW were among the 5 organizations to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in 1997 for the International Landmine Ban Treaty. Jane is a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and board member of the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, as well as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Pacific Council on International Policy, and the International Women's Forum. Jane has traveled extensively in her support of human rights, from Nicaragua and El Salvador during the Contra Wars to the former Yugoslavia during the 1990s ethnic cleansing of Bosnia and the former Soviet Union, especially Azerbaijan and Armenia during the 1990s conflicts. During missions to many countries in Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America, she focused on human rights abuse and refugee conditions, HIV/AIDS, landmines, and other calamities caused by conflict and extreme poverty. A chronicle of her travels appears in her critically acclaimed book, World Citizen: Journeys of a Humanitarian. Jane has received numerous awards, including the 2010 inaugural Allison Day Forge Award from the Human Rights Watch and the inaugural Eleanor Roosevelt Award. She received her BA from the University of Nebraska in 1964 and holds an honorary doctorate from the California Lutheran University. She resides in Pasadena with her husband, attorney Ronald L. Olsen. They have 3 grown children and 8 grandsons, 2 of whom attended Pomona College. Please give a warm welcome to Jane Olson. Madam President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my great honor to present Jane Olson for the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
By the power invested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon Jane Olson the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters in Pomona College, honoris causa. Congratulations, Jane.
I have to warn you, I'm one of the wet ones. I cry very easily. And as you can hear, I've seen a lot of tragedy and suffering in the world, but this is one of the most joyful days of my life, so these will be tears of joy. My greatest thanks to President Starr, to the Board of Trustees, the faculty and staff of Pomona College, and especially to the students for this amazing honor. I will treasure it. By honoring me, you are honoring the profession of volunteerism. I want to say that again, volunteerism. I have worked as a volunteer for many organizations, national and international organizations, and the rewards have been so great. I'm grateful that my husband and family always supported my work. I want to tell you that Ron and I have very deep roots in the Claremont colleges. Ron chaired the Claremont Graduate School and the overall Board of Fellows from 1984 to 1994, so we spent a lot of time out here during those 10 years. We're delighted now that our son Stephen Olson is a member of the Board of Trustees of Pomona, and that 2 of our 8 grandsons attended Pomona College. I get to brag about them, okay? Graham Olson, who graduated in 2022, and Matthias Olson, who's a member of this class, both played on the Sage Hens football team, so I tend to know the football players out in the audience. I'm glad you're wearing the orange sashes. Thank you. Matthias had to take a semester off because of his football injury this fall, but he is here today cheering for his class and will be back next fall, so we'll be out here chirping for Pomona again from the bleachers. I want to tell you that looking out at this beautiful class really takes me back to my own college days, which were a long time ago. My senior year was scarred by the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November of my senior year. I'll never forget the day of where I was. I think everyone remembers that day. JFK was only 43 years old when he was elected President of the United States, and he brought so much hope. In his inaugural address, he inspired my generation with his famous admonition, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." President Kennedy valued America's mission as a nation dedicated to the preservation of human rights. He created the Alliance for Progress and the Peace Corps, which many of my classmates joined right out of college. Both programs focused on giving aid to developing nations. I interpreted President Kennedy's challenge this way: ask what you can do for the world. And I hope that you will expand your views also, because it is a world in great need. For many decades, I have traveled with human rights and humanitarian organizations throughout the world, visiting war zones, places of extreme poverty and disease. As a journalist, I kept detailed notes and took photographs for reports that described the conditions and advocated for the needs of survivors, victims, and refugees. During the COVID shutdown, I finally found the time, and I used my journals to write a book titled World Citizen: Journals of a Humanitarian, which tells stories of victims and honors them as survivors. There's a very big difference between being a victim and being a survivor, and the difference really involves choice. It is hard to relate to statistics. Big numbers are overwhelming, but one person's story can open your heart, cause you to cry, of course, and makes you consider, what can I do to make a difference? One of the biggest lessons that I learned is the importance of listening, really listening to other people. You learn so much from focused listening, and often we're so busy thinking about what we want to say that we don't hear what's being said to us. Listening is a kindness. Kindness is one of the healing energies that I discovered in all of my work. I always came with love and with kindness for everyone. And I hope you will try to be kind to everyone, all of the time. Offer a hand to those who are in need. You will never know how or when or even if, but I promise that it will make a difference and it will matter. I'm so proud of you, and I only have 8 grandsons, so I'm happy to adopt any additional, and I especially need some girls. Anyone in this class who needs a grandma, come see me afterwards. Congratulations, class of 2026. I'm so proud of you.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day. You can hear the birds singing. Welcome to Claremont. Daniel Ziblatt from the Pomona class of 1995. We're so glad to have you here with us today. Friends and class of 2026, Daniel Ziblatt is the Eaton Professor of Science of Government at Harvard University and the director of the Minda de Gunsberg Center for European Studies there. Since 2020, he has also served as the director of the Transformations of Democracy Research Unit as a Wissenschaftszentrum in Berlin, and I had to practice that a lot. We're celebrating here today, and it's a great day. But we all recognize that these are difficult times in the world and in the United States. Pluralist liberal democracy and the rule of law are under attack all over the world. In the United States today, people in power have abandoned our constitutional project of egalitarian multiracial democracy and are instead working on a sweeping ethno-nationalist remaking of our country. Too many of our leaders and our fellow Americans have failed to meet this moment, have failed to recognize, acknowledge, and respond by defending our democratic institutions from those who would destroy them. Too many have made what I would call the category error of focusing on individual civility and polarization rather than authoritarian lawlessness, institutional wreckage, and violence. Professor Ziblatt is a striking exception. He and his colleague Stephen Levitsky have stepped outside of their lanes, drawing on what they have learned from studying past and present authoritarianism and democratic erosion in Europe and Latin America, and applying those lessons to the United States. In 2017, they published their urgent bestseller, How Democracies Die, which many of us on this dais have used in our classes. In 2023, they published The Tyranny of the Minority, which showed a profound openness to learning from events and a willingness to revise their account of what's happening and what can and should be done in our current crisis. Throughout, Professor Ziblatt has done and continues to do profoundly valuable work, learned and rigorous, but also courageous and democratically inspiring. We are all in his debt. Madam President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Daniel Ziblatt for the degree of Doctor of Liberal Arts.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon Daniel Ziblatt the degree of Doctor of Liberal Arts in Pomona College, honoris causa.
President Starr, trustees, faculty, class of 2026, thank you. I'm really very deeply grateful for this honor. It's especially meaningful to be recognized as an alum of this really remarkable college. But my main message today is to the class of 2026. Congratulations. So when I was in your shoes, when I graduated Pomona, we graduated in Bridges Hall, not outside, in 1995, 31 years ago, my classmates and I were entering a very different world than you are. The Cold War had just ended. Liberal democracy seemed to be triumphant. Francis Fukuyama's book, The End of History, seemed to capture the spirit of the age. Liberal democracy was on the march everywhere, Eastern Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa. There was a feeling that history had a direction, that the arc of the moral universe was bending inexorably towards democracy. Now, I should add that we weren't totally crazy to think this. This self-confidence, this self-assurance that once democracy is achieved, it could take care of itself, had some basis in social science. Social science evidence from the past century makes pretty clear that, first of all, rich democracies don't die. No democracy with a per capita income above $14,000 has ever broken down. Second of all, old democracies don't die. No democracy over the age of 50 has ever broken down. So we could be forgiven for thinking that in a country like the United States, democracy was the default. Now here's the thing. We at the time, pundits, citizens, analysts, profoundly misinterpreted the meaning of these statistical correlations. We too often thought that these correlations meant that democracy was like a machine that could run on its own, that citizens and leaders could pursue their narrow interests with only fleeting regard to the public interest. This made my generation heedless of the need to maintain the public good. We disregarded the effects of 1990s economic restructuring on growing income inequality, declining social mobility, and gaps between cities and smaller places. We disregarded the early signs of the impact of the rise of social media on polarization. And too many looked the other way as demagogues were elected to highest political offices and as government officials broke rules. Now, the last 10 years and the ongoing decay of American democracy makes it now clear that this complacency was misplaced. Democracy is about everyone's freedom to speak and hold officials accountable. It's not partisan, and above all, it's not self-sustaining. Citizens and leaders can't simply pursue their own narrow interests with indifference to the public good and assume that our checks and balances will save us. Institutions just don't work that way. They don't operate automatically. They are operated by people. So our actions and the actions of our leaders matter. If the occupants of public office don't enforce rules that check government abuse, even the best constitution will be a dead letter. If civic leaders and organizations don't stand up and defend everyone's rights, even the most robust civil society will wither. Rich old democracies stumble when would-be authoritarians are appeased by society's most powerful leaders, whether we're talking about CEOs, heads of major law firms, media moguls, or civic and political leaders. We had a Winston Churchill quote earlier. I'll give you another one. Winston Churchill once warned that an appeaser is someone who feeds a crocodile hoping to be the last one eaten. He was right. The lessons of history are very clear. Autocrats don't need to seize power at gunpoint when those in positions of responsibility stand down without a fight. Indeed, this is really how authoritarians usually entrench themselves. When that happens, power is not seized, it is ceded. It is ceded by leaders and citizens who think that others will do the work of protecting democracy, or that some set of institutions out there will save us. So my message to you, graduates of 2026, is that today we face twin dangers that we must avoid: overconfidence and fatalism. By overconfidence, I mean that we can't repeat the mistake that my generation made of letting excessive faith in our institutions breed complacency and passivity. By fatalism, I mean the opposite mistake. If you believe the country has reached a point of no return, that politics is fatally rigged, and that you can't make a difference, you grow tempted to focus on yourself alone, which only invites defeat. So just as misguided self-confidence was my own generation's path to passivity, today an equally misguided fatalism risks leading to the same outcome. Both end in the same place, power ceded quietly by people who actually could make a difference. My Harvard colleague, Brandon Terry, has written a beautiful new book about the American civil rights movement that captures really precisely the delicate disposition required to not be overconfident or fatalistic. The book's title says it all. It's called Shattered Dreams, Infinite Hope. And what he does is he encourages us to adopt a tragic sensibility. That is to recognize that in every democratic victory, there's also the risk of real defeat and setback. Every democratic victory is always precarious, and so must be defended and extended. So, class of 2026, whatever path you take from here, you will justifiably and understandably often measure your life by what you achieve for yourself: career, recognition, success. Pursue all of that. But don't let that be the whole measure, because democracy is not defended by private success. Democracy is not defended from the sidelines. That is, if you see groups or individuals targeted by abuses of power, show solidarity with them. Speak up, but also be mindful that solidarity is not a solo act. Join or form groups, a professional society, a faith community, a neighborhood group. Now, joining can sometimes feel small, but power yields only to people pushing back together. When ICE came to Minneapolis earlier this year, what that met them was not 1,000 brave individuals acting alone, nor was it a single leader. No, it was neighbors, faith communities, legal aid clinics, immigrant rights groups, unions, people who had built relationships with each other long before the moment of crisis. So this is actually how democracies are defended. So speak out, yes, of course, protest peacefully, of course, but do it with others, and bring your professional expertise as well to bear through these organizations. When lawyers do pro bono work to defend the targeted, they embolden doctors and medical societies to uphold ethics in the face of political interference. When scientists refuse political pressure, they inspire teachers to resist censorship. When neighbors volunteer to help run elections, they ensure everyone can vote and have their ballots counted, no matter what your political belief is. Democratic courage is contagious. You give others backbone by showing yours, and they give you backbone by standing with you. So again, Pomona graduates, you have bright professional futures in front of you, but always remember to look up and ask yourself, what kind of society do I want to live in? And then work with others to achieve it. So when I reflect on the truly remarkable things my fellow alumni have done over the past quarter century, beyond just material success, it really does convince me that there's something special that happens here at Pomona. Because Pomona alums find a way to engage in public service that has truly made a difference. You have now joined their ranks. The world is in your hands. Congratulations.
Thank you, Daniel Ziblatt, Jane Olson, and Goodwin Liu. And Jane, I apologize for the disruption. We will now proceed to the conferring of degrees.
Will the members of the class of 2026 please rise? Madam President, upon the recommendation of the faculty of Pomona College and by vote of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor of presenting these candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Taylor Simone Campbell. Sydney Catherine Gare Cottrell. Thanasis Goutsinis. Claire Helen Ahern. Jamila Isa Abdullahi. Lina Raed Abed. Edinam Ukiya Ablodipi. Mia Romana Adler. Sultan Dafer Al-Dawudi. Andrea Davila Alonso. Mia Chamberlain Amberger. Dania Tala Anab Tahi. Alua Dabira Alonge Aludaye. Sana Anand. Kira Apodaka. Eyetine Ayola Arillo. Zaira Aurora. Iris Luna Ashley. Alexander Newman Asufid. Kelly Jane Au. Kira Kaonoik Akala E. Augustin. Marissa Diamond Austin. Evelyn Aviles Velasquez. Mame Afua Serwa Bafur Awa. Denise Bajin. Amrit Singh Bajwa. Alana Elizabeth Baker. Asha Chandra Bansal. Maria Manuelos Valdez. Bayarma Bat Erdin. Mark Anton Tate Boylock. Philip Belin. William Reed Bennett. Sarah Berry Abraha. Aditya Margala. Sawyer James Bach. Luke Andrew Bond. Luke Andrew Bond. Yaroslav Boriskin. Ella Hayden Bowers. Ria S. Braganza. Diana Victoria Bragis. Gabrielle Nitai Brenner. Miriam Andromeda Brody. Harrison Doswell Brown. Luke Michael Brown. Bengisu Bulur. Gus Burns. Andrew Jonathan Butler. Sam Butler. Omar Cabello. Vera Rebecca Margaret Caldwell. Anthony Campos. Francis Lee Carlson. Yatsiri Itzel Carmona Ochoa. Isabel Jazmín Castañeda. Claudio Rosas Castillo. Daniela Nicole Cedillo Ornelas. Sofía Marie Centeno. Ben Serben. Savannah Marie Cespedes. Jake J-Hook Chang. Bryson Chi-Wei Chen. Erica Kai-Sui Chen. Lincoln Chen. Yufei Chen. Jack Spencer Chin. Theodore William Chin. Jesse Chippendale. Christopher Wilson Chow. Aaron Janning Christofferson. Alexandra Marie Chuklo. Neil J. Chulani. Aiden Mateen Sicorel. Worley Rocklin Seahis. Miriam Raquel Clement y Caridad. Adrian Weiyung Clement. Jake M. Cole. Alyssa Coleman. Emma Lucy Constable. Finn Cooper. Myra Koru. Yafe Fenyang Cotton. Reina Paulina Cruz Valenzuela. Andrew Pierce Culverwell. Kendrick Ann Dolan. Gabriel Douglas Dalton. Achilles Owen Daniels Condon. Alice Dantas. Sophie Danielle David. Aaron Thomas Davis. Isaiah Carlton Dawson. Isabela Amada de Jesus. Hannah Fanny de la Rosa Rosales. Mohammed Daye. Federica Domecq Lacroze. Catherine Kinley Drays. Ethan Jingdu. Kennedy Nakaya Brown. Colin Joel Elias. John Roper Ellsworth. Eric Arturo Estrada. Colin Patrick Eugster. Stella Sia Fung. Kenneth Feliz. Jun Shu Feng. Sophie Marie Figueroa. Zean Firmeza. Sebastian Fish Maturan. Kelly Zhang-Yin Fisher. Kiara Flores. Nathan Flores. Stephanie Ann Flores. Ty Fowler. Zubai Luisa Frank. Sophie Lunn Fullerton. Alondra Galvez. Emma H. Gandunu. Emily Ji-young Gao. Nathaniel Luquero Garcia. Brian Anthony Giroux Calderon. Miruk Abe Gisao. Colin Timothy Goman. Nicholas Gomes. Sydney Nicole Greek. Camille Marguerite Green. Silver Terrell Green. Ireland Paige Griffin. Sumaj Alidrahi Griffin. Sebastian Owen Groom. Raishin Hannah Guo. Samir Lamont Hampton. Sage Elliott Harper. Minghao He. Minghao He. Fiona Mary Herbold. Kimberly Hernandez. Liam Bear Hochman. Jackson Jaden Taj Hoffman. Trevor James Hollingshead. Hannah Hong. Stephanie Lisette Howard. Conrad Arthur Wagar. Hannah McKendry Hunter. Christopher Tyler Hussey. Gianna Maria Hutton Gonzalez. Camille Ruby Huxell. Sarah Ashraf Ibrahim. Ise Miguel Ianacho. Mariah Saray Jackson. Tatiana Mary Lou Jaimes. Carissa Mijong Joan. Jimin Zhong. Kaila Lashima Don Jewel. Hadley Eleanor Johnson. Cassidy Jones. Elizabeth Irene Jones. Zaire Clover Davis. Priya Elizabeth Julian. Ewan Samuel Kang. Keola Canijo. Ansh Kapoor. Anastasia Karavasili. Aiko Kato. Ishika D. Keswani. Anisa Kitleka. Joanna Meredith Kaiser. Andrew Taehoon Kim. Caleb Hajun Kim. Janice Kim. John Hije Kim. June Park Kim. Nicholas William Kim. Stephen Junhan Kim. Taewon Jack Kim. Youngsu Kim. Waldo Benjamin King. John Sebastian Daoud Kinsey. Kelvin Kissy. Daniel Rabel Klein. Evelyn Sophia Knight. Ashley Knowlton. Nicholas Theodore Kosakowski. Filiana Kostupulo. Thira Kotari. Jeanette Leila Kwasi. Abigail Tate Krenz. Liam Kwok. Jack Lai. Brienz Sai Lang. Ariana Dakota Lawrence. Camden Lay. Niha Megan Lay. Duncan Distad Lee. Tristan Alize Leone. Leslie Lepes Sanchez. Gabriela McNamara Lewis. Ariana Janelle Lewis Pugh. Anbo Ambre Lee. Eric Lee. Serena Winshin Lee. Junhwan Joey Lim. Kylie Singh Liu. Ottavia Lombardo. Julianne Louis. Ahmed Nui. Rachel Ma. Catherine Ma. Anna Whiting Butler McDonald. Amanda Macias Schreiber. Alondra Guadalupe Macias. Iva Serene Magna. Umar Safur Mulik. Amar Malik. Chloe Catherine Marple. William Tyler Marquardt. Gary Edward Macy. Phoebe Jean Mason. Sasha Harmon Matthews. Maxwell McCarthy Neal. Nicholas Elliott McGivern. Bella Ann McGowan. Samuel Paul McIntosh. Daniela Onelli Medina Mariscal. Sophia Noemi Merchant. Maximilian Dong Ju Min. Caleb Asumaning Mayago Yebedom. Maya Cynthia Moore. Samia Touche Marjan. Francisco Javier Morales Puente. Joshua Mosley. Paige Montanos. Tafadzwa Meyola Mudekwa. Tara Mukund. Natalie Cristina Murguia. Santiago Alessio Narváez González. Frida del Carmen Navarro Grau. Emma Marielle Lina Nib. Emmanuel Negash. Bitillo Negusu. Sharon Fereste Nijad. Emma Michelle Newman. Nok Ni Nguyen. Rachel Nam Ying Nguyen. Carl Niat. Rahul Rangan Nirunjan. Mari Nishitani. Alexander Maguire Nonaka. Joseph Roberts Novicki. Anjali Nakshimi Nunghali. Dylan Kim O'Connor. Orezi Emamode Ogbe. Elsbeth Ocon. Jerry Rawlings Onyango. Olsen Nwamwange Osogo. Miku Leila Owada. Alex J. Park. Joshua Jean Park. Kayla Avery Park. Taylor Trinity Parks. Anna Parrott. Matt Parsons. Glenn Parch. Janice He Peng. Priscilla Guadalupe Perez. Nicholas Anthony Perna. Rachel Renee Pittman. Jaden Khalid Porter. Sarah Porterfield. Valentina Puyana Paez. Mingwe Ayir Ku. Jacob Alejandro Ragazza. Mary Angel Ramirez Cabildo. Lana Kaolani Ravelo. Lenny Moses Rebuch. Anna Elizabeth Breville. Lauren Raw. Samantha Nicole Riesgo Samudio. William R. Riley. Noah Aaron Rinsler. Catherine Raquel Ribas. Brenda Rodriguez. Gerardo Rodriguez. Natalie Kailani Roston. Nathan Sif Rubin. Nicholas William Russell. Michael John Ryan. Mirabella Reina Sabah. Marina Nicole Saffold. Leila Wael Saikun. Simran Kaur Saini. Samantha Salazar. Giselle Ray Lumumdan Sangumba. Jake Samuelson. Sage Santomena. Eva Mercedes Santos Volpi. Kartika Nathania Santoso. Peter Schwamlein. Claire Enye Sefko. Mira Adriana Seti Charity. Nolwenn Inman Sharp. Thomas Lee Shaw. Simon Meyer Shelley. Jacob Kelly Shimon. Eugenia Schwarzman. Christopher Simpson. Z. Bella Jagger Skigan. Faye Smirnu. Edidya Solomon. Ashley Sun. Yunju Sang. Helene Sov. Katerina Spacik. Ruthie Burns Spencer. Ava Catherine Spiegler. Arivumani Balin Srivastava. Lawrence A. Stampino Strain. Jack Jason Parkhurst Stein. Gabriel Harrigan Stevens. Gemma J. Stolberg. Ryan Lee Strack. Alexis Juarez Ramirez. Jacob Sugawara. Jaehyun Su. Bernice Yilgir Soule. Jack Michael Susank. Sydney Yuming Tai. Trinity Tai. Tom Tang. Alexa Tapia Plasola. Adi Leonardo Teubenfeld. Kristen Amelia Taylor. Guda Bakere Tafera. Joya Samara Varma Turdiman. Madison Rain Thomas. Emma Grace Tom. Sebastian Aaron Toole. Leonardo Torres. Sumaya Toussaint Farrell. Elena Victoria Townsend Lerdo. Charles Maury Treen. Emma May Treeweiler. Daniel Yunhao Tai. Tux Bilgun. Catherine Elizabeth Turk. Ella Ann Shepik Urfrig. Cole Jordan Uematsu. Cole Jordan Uematsu. Aisha Weisberg. Kevin Bolivia. Lauren Nicole Valentine. Andrea Vargas. Victoria Safanafrath Veek. Daniel Velasquez. Natalie Velasquez. Daniel Miguel. Robert William Villa. Francisco Antonio Villaseñor. Después Francisco Antonio Villaseñor Rosales. Rocío Agustina Botero. Chao Ha Vu. Jack Franklin Walker. Kristen Jae-Shin Wang. Sabrina Wang. Kaylin Enea Washington. Haley James Webb. Sasha Isabel Weiss. Dylan Charles Wigglesworth. Bailey LaDon Williams. Evan Grover Williams. Jasmine D. Williams. Isabel Mary Winnick. Nathaniel Morris Wisdom. Aaron Peace Wu. Sam Wyatt. Nicole Shu. Paul Hao Ren Yan. Ember Devaney Yanis. Dylan Michael Yan. Alyssa Marie Yao. Josephine Hay Yip. Harum Yun. Lue Jenny Yuan. Amanda Xochitl Zavala. Jancy Emily Salaya. Yidang Sung. Maya Siju Shang. Jessica Zhang. Jessie Zhang. Max Andrew Sonana. Maggie Zhang. Minghua Zhang. Haobo Oscar Zhao. Antong Zhang. Grace Zhang. Laura Longsheng Zhou. Xintong Zhou. Emily Zhu. King Zhu. Long Zhu. Alice Marilyne Joanne Makendi Mpuma. All right, you ready? Lexi Duffy.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you all, as you have individually presented yourselves, the degree of the Bachelor of Arts in Pomona College with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereunto. Please move your tassels from right to left. Between you and marching back through the gates. So class of 2026, at the opening convocation for many of you during your first week of Pomona, Vera Berger, who was then ASPC president and a physics major, shared a photo taken from the James Webb Space Telescope. And here it is up on the screens, the Carina Nebula. 8,500 light years away. The Carina Nebula, she told us, is comprised of dust and gas, and the colors in the image are not what you would see if you looked with the naked eye. The colors are used instead to encode information about light emitted at wavelengths that we can't see. Carina, like all nebulae, is a place where stars are born, a stellar nursery. And you have spent the last few years in another place, not quite a nursery, but maybe a garden, here at Pomona. A place where you, as stars, have continued to grow. You will light up the world through the lives you touch in medicine, law, teaching, and the arts, in think tanks and corporations, and endeavors close to home and around the globe, and maybe even beyond. Our garden is the place where your passions have ignited, where you've taken what were perhaps vague ideas about how you'd like to invest your life and seen them burnished and honed into something of lasting value. If we have done our jobs at Liberal Arts College, you'll have tried things you never thought of, and many of those are now a vital part of your lives and ambitions. In this stellar garden of Pomona, you've also found your constellation, your team around you. These are the people who've shaped your experience in the classroom, on the athletic field, in the residence hall, and wherever life together has taken you. And one of the beauties of your time at Pomona is being able to experience this period of intense educational growth and personal growth collectively. You've been surrounded by people who inspired you, challenged you, cheered you on, loved you, walked beside you as you've transformed into the college graduates you are today. Some of these people will be lifelong friends and mentors. Some of them you may end up marrying. Treasure them and reconnect whenever you can. You learned firsthand just how fast life can change. You learned the value of community and the face-to-face interaction our small liberal arts college facilitates, and wherever you go from here, build a community, be part of a team. The world you're graduating into faces great challenges. We've talked about AI for years, but never before in the history of humankind has that term wrought both promise and peril. Never before has technology made it possible to create an apparent reality that upon closer inspection is in no way real.
We hate you, Gabby Starr!
I love you all. Pomona has made it possible for you to move forward with boldness in the face of challenges and to ensure the human spirit remains steadfast in this changing world.
Free Palestine!
So I charge you, class of 2026, go forth from this stellar garden of Pomona College believing in your power to make this world shine bright. I know you will succeed, and we will bask in your light. Congratulations to the class of 2026.